Well, good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through with Monty. Today, we are going to discuss a very serious topic. As you see, these black women here are in despair, anguish. Little black girl here is in tears. They're crying. And sense of sadness and of what can we do? Now, this is all as a result of this particular article here. And I need to explain to you why I'm doing this video. Because I've been hearing from quite a few black women online. It has got to do with the supposedly sexual molestation, rape, assault of black women. However, if you look at the second part of this, after the black women, the forgotten survivors of sexual assault, and then it goes into African American women are at a disproportionate risk of sexual violence. Here's how you can, then it goes into, do, or what you should do. But I want to talk about this belief and notion that somehow black women are at a disproportionate risk of sexual violence. Now, I've heard 3 different stories or tales about this. They go something like this. Black women between the ages of 8 and 18 are more likely to be raped or molested. Then it goes black women and girls, actually, up until the age of 18 are more likely to be raped or molested. Then I've heard black women are more likely to be sexually assaulted. So there's different variations of this particular saying or belief that is going around out there. But the most common belief is that black women are more likely to be. And let me just tell you this much. Nothing is farther from the truth with that. With that being said, black women should report it. They should talk about it. It should be discussed. No perpetrator should be let off easily. No perpetrator should go like unconvicted. So that's not what I'm saying. I'm not saying do not talk about it, do not discuss it. I'm definitely not saying protect a black man's pride. No, not at all. What I am saying, though, you must be very careful about putting a number on it. And the number it goes like this. When you say 30%, 40%, 50% of black women have, we don't really know that. That's a guess. That's an estimate. When you start saying things like black men are more likely, that's a lie. When you start saying things like black women are more likely, that's a lie. Many of these so-called stats that you are given are on white supremacist websites who have a history of perpetrating or portraying black men as being the perpetrators of sexual abuse and assault. These roving, ravaging savages who are out here doing this to their women, who are the number one villains of rape, molestation. And people, actually, the majority of rapes, molestations will happen among white men. It happens with white men among white women. Most of these types of crimes are interracial. And to understand these crimes, you must understand the numbers, the dominant numbers of the groups in America. You cannot really get a good hold on this if you do not understand racial crimes and stats. I want to advise everyone not to just repeat something because you want to believe it, or because you're angry at black men, or because you want a reason to date out or date others. Be very responsible with this. And the reason why you should be responsible with this is because if black men are doing all of this, then what does that say about who they're being raised by? So what I'm going to do right here, I'm going to show you how these numbers are false and how many of you are being misled. Okay, here's a chart that pretty much matches with others that I have seen right here, and explaining the racial breakdown of the American public. It goes non-white, Hispanic, white are 60.1%. Hispanic and Latino, they're 18% of the population, followed by Black, African American, 13.4%, Asian, 5.9%, two or more races, 2.8%, Native American, Alaskan, 1.3%. Then it goes Native Hawaiian, other, or Pacific Islanders, 0.2%. Now that white race, let's go up there. I do believe it's a little higher than that. It's not 60.1 if you were to factor in white Hispanics who are actually white, predominantly more European. It would go up to 65, around 65%, I believe, 65, maybe 70. But they broke it down and gave Latinos a category there, when in fact they are more like a ethnicity as opposed to like a racial category. So the white population is more like 65, 70%. However, this is just to illustrate that the majority of races or racial makeup in the American public, or any public, would be the majority of the people who are committing the majority of the crime. Now, I'm going to prove this to you, so just follow along. Are raising these black men. So what is being said has absolutely no verifiable facts to back it up. Okay, and the number of that chart in which I'd given you, that showed when it comes to rape, whites commit 12,000, over 12,000 rapes compared to blacks over 5,000. It can easily double or even triple if you were to include date rape drugs, because many women do not remember anything, or it's a very foggy, cloudy memory. Common date rape drugs: GHB, rihabenol, ketamine, alcohol. Also included would be ecstasy, called Molly, LSD, clopidogrel, and Xanax. So the majority of the women who are raped do not even report it. So that can just fly through the roof. So we as black people need to be very careful about information that we are disseminating out there. With false information, we're doing ourselves a disservice, and we're aiding and abetting a very racist society and institutions that want to put the blame, sexual aggression, assault, on black men. And when black women just loosely repeat these unfounded allegations, you're helping that cause very much. And you're not helping your cause at all. And here we go. These are some statistics on date rapes. It says right here more than 75% of college students who experience unwanted intercourse are under the influence of alcohol or drugs at the time of the incident. Then it goes on to say that 60% of college women who have acquired sexually transmitted diseases, including AIDS, were under the influence of alcohol at the time they had intercourse. Between 15 and 30% of college women have been a victim of acquaintance rape at some point in their lives. Two-thirds of rape victims between the ages of 18 and 29 knew their attacker, and over 60% of rapes occur in residences. DC Rape Crisis Center. 77% of completed rapes are committed by non-strangers. Bureau of Statistics, 1997. A woman is 4 times likely to be raped by an acquaintance than by a stranger. Illinois Coalition Against Sexual Assault, 2002. Acquaintance rape is rarely reported to police. Acquaintance rape is rarely reported to police. Less than 2% of acquaintance rape victims reported the assault, whereas 21% of women reported by strangers. Reported cases to the police. Illinois Coalition Against Sexual Assault, 2002. Every year, an estimate of 1 woman in 8 in college is raped. And in 85% of those assaults, the woman knew their attacker. Texas University, 2007. 31% of rape victims develop some form of rape-related post-traumatic stress disorder. National Center for Victim of Crimes, Research Treatment Center, 1992. As many as 70% of college students admit to having engaged in sexual activity, primarily as a result of being under the influence of alcohol or having sex they wouldn't have had if they had been sober. 1 in 2 college males admits to having committed acts that met the legal definition of rape. 60% of college women who were infected with STDs, including genital herpes and HIV, reported that they were under the influence of alcohol at the time they had intercourse with their infected persons. 1 in 5 college students abandoned safe sex practices when they were drunk, even if they had always protected themselves when sober. Let me just tell you the most important thing about this right here. They left out race intentionally on this one. They did not divulge the race, and we can surmise why. If you were to go to black colleges, so-called rapes and date rapes or raping someone under their influence is almost like unheard of. I mean, it's very low. Compared to white colleges, it is extremely low. So we know that the majority of these types of incidences, these rapes and date rapes, and is majority of white students at white colleges. So therefore, we need to be very careful with information that we are disseminating out there, because it makes us look bad unnecessarily. And it's not about pride and ego. Rape should be reported. I mean, if it's black on black rape, it should be reported. It should be talked about. But what should not be talked about and disseminated are lies. Because once we get a reputation of being the worst at something, it stays with us for decades. We would have to live with the consequences of these false allegations for years and years and years. So these talking points that so many black women are picking up about being the number one, about black women being more likely, those are just like white supremacist talking points that are being handed out online that are not verifiable. So this is the reason why we need to study and do research and not just believe things. Because believing that black men are some sort of super predators is very easy. And it's very easy for black people to even believe that. That's one of the reasons why I started a YouTube channel, is to break down these stereotypes. Because I study them. I study stats, and I'm pretty good at it. To give people ammunition to come back with, I'm saying, no, that's not true. That's incorrect. But we have to be very careful with just being so happy to disseminate this out there, because we are not really understanding the damage that it is doing to us. Damage that would take years upon years to correct. And in the meanwhile, while that damage has been taken care of and being corrected, we're left with this self-hating syndrome of not trusting one another, of, basically no coalition building at all. And that's very bad and detrimental to us, particularly considering the society and world that we live in. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, let's be responsible. That was another edition of Seeing Beyond and Through, and I will see you beyond and through.